I cry myself to sleep at night. I don't cry for him. It's her that I miss. She trusted without question and loved without reservation. She was open and honest and alive. So alive, but not anymore. Her death was not quick and painless. It was agonizingly slow and merciless. She did not just die, she was murdered, slowly poisoned by the man she loved, poisoned by his words and his silence, poisoned by his anger and his rage, poisoned by his cruelty and abuse. She died so slowly that she didn't even realize she was dying, withering away until she was no more, killed by an evil she couldn't see or comprehend. And I am all that is left, a shell, empty and haunted. I wear her clothes, speak with her voice, and smile with her smile. I do this so no one will know she's gone, but I know, and I miss her every day, the woman I used to be.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Lexani Love, and I am back again this week in detail explaining why I am a single mother, my domestic violence story. These are just some of the things that I've been through in my past as it pertains to domestic violence, and it made me who I am today. My purpose and hope is to be a light to somebody else's situation, to maybe be a motivation, to maybe help pull somebody else who may be going through something out of their situation. So of course, I'm pretty sure many of you just viewed the video that you just viewed, and it probably did leave you wondering, feeling emotional. Maybe it even shocked you. It's not something that you just see on TV. This is like real life stuff. It really happens. And I do want to give a big major shout out to Biden, our president, because he does advocate for domestic violence. He advocates for domestic violence. So big shout outs to our president, Biden, because that was big for me. That was very big for me. But anyways, so let's move on. What happened? Like, where did it all start? What in your right mind would ever make you think that accepting something like that is okay? We are all products of our environment. So if you are in an environment where it is made to be okay, or it's made to be, hey, this is what a relationship looks like. You argue, you fight, you make up, you move forward, then of course you think that that is okay. So with me bearing witness to domestic violence in my childhood, I did get older, and as I start coming across these relationships, I did think that that was a normal part of a relationship. Some people really grow up in environments where that's their norm. So they really think that it's okay until they're shown otherwise. So yes, I was one of those children who witnessed it, who grew up also thinking that it was okay to accept that type of behavior. Some men, again, are products of their environment or have never been taught how to express their emotions in the correct way. So in this video, I do want to highlight that I am not downing any of the men in my past who inflicted this violence upon me. In no way am I doing this to make them out to be these horrible people, because this has all been years ago now. At this point, we've all moved forward, and everybody, you know, is getting their life together for the better. So this is more of a video to just bring insight to those of you who may not really understand domestic violence and what occurs and happens in it to make women like me stay. I was 15 years old when I met my son's father. Of course, like every relationship, it's a teenage relationship. You think it's like the best thing in the world. Over time, though, I started to see another side of him. And I remember one day he, I guess, rode around looking for me. I remember him ringing the doorbell, and I was thinking like, hey, if I don't come to the door, he's gonna show out. But if I just go to the door, we can leave. Boy, was I wrong, because I got to that door and I remember him grabbing me by my hair and literally dragging me down the driveway and throwing me into his car. He drives off. I remember fighting him in the back of the car. I remember like trying to get out the car and telling him to stop the car and let me out. He would not let me. And I remember for a second, a thought just flashing in my mind to where I just felt like, I gotta get away from this. I'm gonna jump out this car. I don't know if I make it hit, if I'll survive this jump, but I'm gonna try it, because at that point, I didn't want us to get to where he was trying to take me back to his place or something, because I knew it was gonna be 10 times worse than what it was in the car. So I remember just thinking like, hey, just try to jump out. And so I remember opening up the door and getting ready to jump out. And I got out the car, and I remember just running like to this neighborhood and knocking on the door of some random person. And I remember they came to the door and they kind of saw me, and I asked them, you know, for help. I also remember there was one time where I was pregnant with our son, and I was catching a bus to get back to his house. And I remember getting ready to cross the street to try to catch the bus. And there was this lady in the car, and she told me she wasn't paying attention. And I guess she somehow pressed the gas pedal, and she hit me while I was pregnant. And I remember falling to the ground. I remember that there was like blood running down my leg. And I remember me getting up, and I remember her stopping me like, you need to go to the hospital. You're pregnant. I'm so sorry. Like, let me take you to the hospital. And I was more afraid of being late to walk through the doors of his house than thinking about my child in the moment, honestly. I can be honest and say that. I feared him more. Again, I'm just a teenager. I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. So I remember like getting up and limping and telling her, no, it's okay, because I saw the city bus, it was coming. And mind you, the city bus had stopped because they saw everything, like the cars, everybody had stopped. And I'm running, and I get on the city bus, and I remember the lady looking at me, and she's like, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, just go, please, just go. I gotta get home, just go. And I remember everybody kind of being shocked, like, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, just go. And of course, you can't force anybody to do anything. So eventually the city bus driver did go. And I remember walking through the doors of his house, and I remember there was still blood. I remember him saying, like, what the fuck happened to you, or something like that. And I told him what happened. And mind you, I heard him, like, he was on the phone while I was trying to talk to him, and he was on the phone with this girl, and I could hear it, so I knew. So I was kind of already upset, but I'm like telling him what's going on, like maybe he'll get off the phone and pay attention to the fact that, you know, I'm pregnant. I just got hit by a car with his son inside of me. And instead, he's like on the phone, and he tells me like, go wash that shit off. He didn't say like, let's go to the hospital, let me take you to the hospital. He literally was just like, go wash that shit off. And so of course I went back there, I got myself together, got washed off. I remember his mom coming home though. Well, she wasn't staying there, but I remember her coming into the house, and I told her what happened. And I remember her, she told me like, no man is ever worth you putting your child at risk. Like, you put yourself first. And I think she made me go to the hospital to make sure everything was okay. And everything ended up being okay. I can say I did end up going into labor. I think I went into labor like soon after that. But he came out healthy. He was fine. But yes, like, that was like so traumatic, you know, for me to be in this relationship where I knew that I was with somebody. He was like cheating. He was on the phone with me while I'm coming through the door after getting hit by a car, telling me to go wash that shit off, and just blowing it to the side like it's nothing. And things just got really bad until one time it was just so bad that of course the police got involved. But because of how bad it was no longer me versus him. It became the state versus him. So I had no say in what happened, and they ended up locking him up, and I think he did like a year. And that is what really pulled me from the situation. I can't even honestly sit here and say that it was because I realized that it was so bad for me and I finally got the strength to get out. No, it was because he got locked up. I still kind of had love for him. Again, I'm young, I don't know any better. I thought that was normal. So I do remember missing him while he was still in jail. And I remember at that time I had moved on and I met somebody else, and this was somebody who I also kind of knew from my childhood. And me and him ended up getting into a relationship, and I can honestly say, like, fast forward to when my son's father got out, I was kind of looking forward to it, because I'm just gonna be honest, I was dumb. I didn't know any better, and all I knew is that, like, because of this situation, state pulled him away from me. He got locked up for a year. Yes, it was like a year to where I didn't have to worry about getting beat on, so that felt great. But it was also to where it wasn't like an abrupt ending to where I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I did miss him. I don't know, it was just one of those things to where it just, I didn't close that chapter the proper way. So I was looking forward to when he got out. When he did get out, I remember seeing him for the first time, and what I thought was going to be maybe like these emotions coming back fully, it ended up not being that. I remember seeing him and kind of feeling mad all over again, and it was like, no. So I say that to say that sometimes you need closure to really see that that's not what you want, because that's definitely how I felt. But I remember him being upset over the fact that he knew that I was in this relationship and that I didn't want him anymore. And I remember him holding me down and raping me. And at that time, I can honestly say, like, I didn't want that. Like, that's nowhere near what I wanted. I was telling him no. I was crying and begging him not to, because I was telling him, like, you know, my daughter's father was going to think that I was just cheating and that I wanted it, because of course he knew that's who I was in a past relationship with. He knew he had gotten locked up. So I was telling him, like, please don't do this. Like, begging him, I'm crying, and he's like holding me down, and he does it anyways. And I literally remember crying. This is not just like a, oh, you're doing this and I'm going along with it, but I just in my head, like, I don't want this. I remember really crying, because I've never been a cheater. I did not want to cheat, even though I knew I had all these mixed emotions at the time. I knew that I also did not want to cheat in the relationship that I was in. So I was like crying and trying to fight him off of me. When it was all over with, I do remember going to who I was in a relationship with at that time, and I remember telling him what happened. I was honest with him about it. I didn't hide it, because I'd rather it came from me than him, and him make it just seem like I just did it because I wanted to, and he would have thought I was really cheating then. So I remember being honest with him and telling him what happened, and he was a little skeptical at first, but I told him, like, that was not my intentions. I ended up getting pregnant after that, and of course, as you probably can imagine, I didn't know who my daughter's dad was. I didn't know if it was my son's father or if it was who I was in a relationship with at that time, because of the rape. But my daughter's father, he ended up still sticking through with me. He still stayed. He didn't leave me. He did end up calling him, and was, you know, he was very upset. He really wanted to get to him, but he didn't leave me. He still stuck by my side, because he knew that it was still also a possibility that was his. So we got through it, and I ended up having my daughter. When I ended up having her, it wasn't my son's father. It ended up being, you know, who I was with at that time, my daughter's father. So he really did stick through with me during those times. We end up having like issues, and that's kind of how we kind of start splitting and going our separate ways. And of course, after, you know, me and my daughter's father decided that it just was not going to work with the circumstances and how everything was going, my two little ones, their dad, I came across him. He took both my son and my daughter in at the time. We didn't have any kids together. And again, he knew my story. He helped me with them. Same thing, you know, I would never do that to you. And later on down the line, it became worse. I was with him the longest, so I feel like that's why with him, I endured through so much as far as domestic violence. Like, more happened with him than my son's father, but I think it's just because I was with him for so long. I was with him for years. So I did go through, it's a lot with him. Not even gonna lie. I remember him slamming my head against the wall to where you could see like that indent from my head. And I remember we had it covered with like some decorations or something. But I remember always going into the living room and seeing, I think it was like a mirror picture or something, and knowing that my skull print lied behind that. He beat me. It is emotional because of the way everything happened, and it's such a long story. I think it's easier for me to tell of the story of the things I went through with my son's father because my son, of course, he is 13 now, so this literally has been over 13 years. The situation with my little one's dad, it's been some years too. I still struggle. I can be honest and say, like, you're not supposed to hate, but I can say, like, whew, that situation is like I wish you well, but stay far away from me. Stay far, far away from me. I don't like really being in his presence. I'm sorry. But anyways, it hurts. It hurts when you really love somebody and you feel like you're giving them your all, and they could, go to try to put their hands on you and go to try to make you feel like the worst person ever, to degrade you and make you feel ugly, because that's what he did. My self-esteem was really low with him. He would tell me I was ugly. He would tell me I was flat-chested, that nobody would ever be with me. And I really started to believe it. I accepted so much in the relationship with him. In that relationship, I remember one specific incident where he fought me like I was a man out here in the streets. I'm not even gonna lie. And I remember trying to fight back because I remember feeling like my life was gonna end that night. I remember him punching me in my face back to back, again as if he was fighting somebody in the streets. And I remember trying to swing back to protect myself, and I remember it just making it worse. It made him go even harder. And that was the time where I remember him like throwing my back against the wall in the bathroom and me sliding down the tub walls and him sticking my head in the toilet. I remember him, I believe that was the time where my ribs ended up being fractured. And I remember him punching me dead in the face in front of my son. And I remember telling my son to just go in the room. I remember having to call my best friend, and I remember telling her, like, hey, bestie, I need you to act like you want to come get a pair of my heels. And she said, why? I said, don't say anything. I said, but right now, I said, I can't barely move. I remember my side was hurting, my eyes was black, my lip was busted. And I told her, I said, but don't come in here saying anything. Like, just make it seem like you're popping up and you come to get a pair of heels for me. I said, but we got to get me out of here. And I remember she came by the bed and she seen me. And my best friend has always been there. And she flipped out. It wasn't even, we gonna go about this smoothly. My best friend came with a gun, y'all. She came, she saw me. She said, oh, hell no. I remember her dragging me out that bed, and I was in pain, and I'm like, slow down. And she like, you gonna have to hold on, you gonna be in pain, but we getting you out of here. And I remember her pulling me like, we not sneaking and doing none of this, you gonna come. And I remember her dragging me through the house, and I remember her having that gun out like, I will shoot this, like, don't. She's leaving, she getting out of here. And she got me out of there. And then we got up the street, and I remember that's when we called the police. And I remember going to the hospital and them coming, of course, and seeing everything. My kids witnessed a lot. And I think that's why it's so hard for me. Because now that I look back, I feel like, who would do such things like that to a woman, let alone in front of her kids, after he knew her history and past and made her feel like he would never do that to her. He took advantage of my weakness, that I can say. I had tried to get away so many times before that, and I just could never really get away. I remember trying to climb out windows and him catching me and beating me. I remember, like, after I had one of our children, me wanting to go stay with my mom and them, but him telling me, you know, I couldn't. And I told my mom and them, like, I want to come home. I need to come home. And I remember telling them enough to know that I can't just get up and walk out these doors. I remember that it was like me having a baby, like a welcome home, welcoming a baby party that was being thrown. And I remember telling my parents, like, come to it. And then when we get ready to leave, I'm going to leave out with you. And I remember telling them, like, I don't care about a lot of my clothes and stuff. I left a lot of stuff because I knew that I just needed to get away. I didn't tell, you know, my little one's dad what I was doing because, of course, that wouldn't have went good. I remember as the party was, like, dying down and over with, I remember going to get my baby. I remember telling him, like, I'm gonna go with my parents. And I remember he was upset and he was like, go with your parents. What are you doing? And I'm like, you know, I'm going with my parents. And of course my parent was like, she's going with us. So that's when I kind of like started pulling away, but I can't say that I really fully even pulled away at that point, because when I got to my parents' house after a while, I started feeling bad because he made me feel like I took his child away from him, and he started making it seem like he was so depressed and how he didn't know what to do and he couldn't live and move forward. And I've always been like a caring person. I've always cared about everybody else and how they feel and put my feelings to the side. So I remember going to my parents and asking them, like, hey, I'm not going back because I feel safer here, but you know, maybe he can come here and stay sometime so he can still see his kid, because I've never been that mom to take my kids away from their father. I remember asking them, like, is it okay if he comes so he can still be there? So I remember him actually coming for a while over my parents' house. And I think over time I just got really tired and realized that even when he was there, he wasn't like helping much. I just realized that that's not what I wanted. So I eventually got away from that situation and grew the strength to realize that there was better out there for me. And it was a lot. Like, it was a lot. I really did. I went through a lot. Like, y'all, I can't even sit here and give y'all the full details about everything because it's like, it's so much. But just know that, like, when somebody is in a domestic violence situation, most likely their mental is gone. Their mental ability to be able to function and properly think and tell themselves that this is not right, it's gone. So when I see so many of you saying like, oh, she's stupid or she won it because she's still staying in it. No, you don't have the mind no more to think to say that this is something I don't deserve, especially if you grew up seeing it. You don't have the mind to be able to pull yourself together to say that there's better out there. All you know is what you're in and what you constantly are going through. All you know is that if I walk away from this, especially if it's a situation to where they're providing for you in a sense, where am I going to stay? Who's going to pay these bills? You know, yes, it's bad here, but at least I have my own. A lot of times I just was like, I don't want to go back to my parents' house. And I know some people was like, I would rather to do that than to be beat on. Yes, I get it. But my mom was so far gone at that time. It was a lot. So what I would want for you to take away from this is that not every woman was blessed to be able to have an environment that was loving, or somebody to tell them like, this is what you accept and don't accept from a man. Not everybody really fully understands that there's better out there, that there's even help and support out there. A man can make you feel so like you are his and what he says is the truth, that you will really fall for believing that there's not better out there, that if you leave there you won't find better. It's so true. So I would just encourage anybody watching this to not down a woman that is going through domestic violence. Don't do it. Just encourage her. Tell her that she is worth it, that there is people out there who love her, that there is help out there. Telling her she's stupid or dragging her down is not going to help, because she's already hearing that behind closed doors. She's already hearing that she's not worth anything, that nobody will ever love her. So by you coming and telling her that she's stupid, that does not help at all. Encourage her, lift her up, tell her she is beautiful. Tell her that there is somebody out there that will love her and never do that to her. Tell her that there's support out there. And if you can't support her or don't know how to support her, help her to find that support. Because your words, if they're negative, it's just going to confirm everything that he has said and spoken to her. It's going to make her feel like she's not worth it. Take this video. And I'm sorry, y'all, because I know I got really emotional because that's a touchy subject for me. Again, this would take videos and videos to really break down every little thing and take you into the mindset of what I was thinking in those moments. And I just simply don't have the time to do it. But I hope from this video that you have gathered that women need help. Domestic violence is real. It's not what you see on TV. It's not just on TV. There's women out here suffering because they don't know better. They don't know better. They don't know better. So take this video and let it allow you to find somebody going through domestic violence and help uplift them and help guide them out to safety.